right. Welcome back to another episode of the Believe in Minnesota Football podcast, hosted by the starting kicker of your Golden Gophers, Matthew Trickett, and me, Tony Liebert. For this week's episode, we are going to recap Minnesota's impressive 49-7 win over Colorado in week 3. And we'll preview the Big Ten opening game in week 4 in East Lansing against the Michigan State Spartans. So yeah, I guess we'll start with the impressive win against Colorado on Saturday, 49-7. Another dominating performance, really, in all facets of the game. I think one of the biggest talking points from the game was Mohamed Ibrahim's start to the game and really his finish to the game. One of his more complete performances in a Gophers uniform. 23 carries, 202 yards, 3 touchdowns, fourth 200-yard game of his career, which is now the most in Gophers history. 12th straight game with 100-plus yards. And I guess from my point of view, it kind of looked right on his first run of the game. I think he just ran over a Colorado defender, kind of in the secondary, and it just kind of looked like he came to play right on the first run.
Yeah, without a doubt. And, that's kind of who he is. That's testament to all his hard work and all the running backs' hard work. But, yeah, that he's always hungry and looking for more.
Yeah. So we've kind of talked about him all week. It seems like he's a talking point after every game, based on kind of how he started the season. I think he's honestly, with a game like this, I think he really puts himself honestly into like the national Heisman conversation, in my opinion. But I know that's probably something he's not looking at, and really no one on your team's looking at. But it's always I think this next game against Michigan State, when you guys are kind of more on a national scale, it's going to be kind of a big moment for him to prove kind of where he stands with the best players in the sport.
Yeah, and I think everybody on the team is really excited for this next game because, 3 blowout wins is fun, and we're able to, control the entire game and do with it what we want. But being in those conference games and knowing that means so much when you're looking at like a Big Ten West championship or anything like that, it just means so much more. So I know from now on, the games are going to be tight. It doesn't matter who you play week to week. You can see teams get beat when they shouldn't get beat. And yeah, it's really going to be huge for everyone.
Yeah. I've on the other unfortunate, I think, storyline from this game was Chris Autman-Bell leaving with injury kind of in the middle of the game near the end. And I guess I won't ask you to talk about kind of the severity, and we'll let him or the program release that as they may. But I guess when you kind of see one of the leaders on the team go down with an injury, and in the moment, you guys obviously don't know how severe it is. How kind of was the reaction to that on the sideline during the game?
During the game, you'd never want to see any of your guys go down. We have the depth to, recover from it and stay in stride. But some players you just can't replace. There are certain characteristics about Chris that we love as a team and we rely on. And, when somebody like that goes down, you start thinking of everything we're going to be missing. And while that is all true, we also have to open our eyes to what we're adding, because we have a lot of young guys, we have a lot of depth, and it's going to be really interesting to see what those new guys can add and how they're going to perform on a big stage like Michigan State. A lot of them, haven't gotten their chance yet, or if they have, it's been late third quarter, we're up 30 points, something like that. So really, when the so-called pressure is on, seeing those guys step up and create a reputation for themselves will be interesting.
Yeah, at least from my point of view, I feel like the wide receiver room as a whole definitely has the talent behind Chris and in the group to kind of replace his production. But I feel like the biggest thing that is being lost with him being injured might be leadership because he's
Yeah.
obviously been with the program for so long. And hopefully he'd still be able to add that if he's not able to suit up. But losing a player like that has to just be because he has to just be an integral part in the locker room and in the team, and just losing a personality like that has to be tough, I would imagine.
Yeah, that's definitely true. We're gonna, miss his leadership on the field or off the field, whatever it may be. But I mean, he's still there. He's still with the team. He's not going anywhere. Um, whether he plays or whether he doesn't, he's still gonna lead how he usually leads. He just has to, adapt it a bit differently if he's gonna help coach the younger wide receivers on the sideline or whatnot. But I know he's a very positive guy, and I'm sure he has a great outlook on whatever his injury may be, whether he can play or whether he's out for the season. We don't know, but um, I mean, he's still a great person, and that's the most important thing. And I know if he can't play, that he's going to help our teammates out as much as he can from the sideline, and maybe that'll help him down the line. Maybe that's the journey he's called to now. We don't really know the story because it's still being written, but yeah.
Yeah, injuries are really, I think, the worst part about football. But unfortunately, they seem to happen almost every single year. But I feel like the last kind of big storyline from the offense again against Colorado was Tanner Morgan's performance behind center. It's always interesting from my point of view because during the game, I'm obviously on Twitter reading all the replies and what everyone's saying. And the game started, and the Gophers were dominant offensively, a lot of running the football, and Tanner, I think, kind of started slow, at least in the box score, and a lot of fans. It's interesting to see how quickly they turn on Tanner, which is always, I guess, funny to see. But he kind of shut up the doubters in the second half. He kind of finished really strong after kind of starting slow, but it was another good performance for him, and I think he's really shown that he's more than capable of being a upper tier starting quarterback in the Big Ten. And I think today or last week's game against Colorado is just another point to that resume.
Oh, 100%. And I think he knows that. He's definitely put in the time, the work, and he's earned that respect up to now. And he's going to continue to keep earning that week in and week out. Um, from a fan's perspective, they love you when you succeed, they hate you when you don't. It's always something that you have to learn as an athlete at any school, but especially a Big Ten school. And um, he's done that. He knows exactly how to handle it. Like we had him on the interview the other week. Um, but I mean, he's a pro. He knows, like even with the interception, uh, could that have been avoided? Yes, he could have made a better throw, but at the same time, Brevin is a great player and can make that catch. Like it's it's just part of the game, and that's why we love it so much. But he knows what he's doing, and I think at the end of the year, everything said and done, when his career here is over, everybody is going to be more than grateful and more than appreciative for him.
Yeah, especially from my point of view as a lifelong Gophers fan, it's interesting how quickly, I guess, really just fans of sports in general, especially the Gophers, how quick their expectations change. How 5 years ago, before Coach Fleck got here, a 6-6 season was almost a success, and I think any Gophers fans would have been more than happy with Tanner's quarterback play now at that time, and it's just interesting how quick expectations change. But one of the interesting touchdowns at the end of the game was Clay Geary getting his first career touchdown. He's one of obviously the more veteran players on the team. Kind of along with Tanner, we talked to him about how he is so much older than a lot of guys on the team, and Clay Geary's even older than Tanner. So it was kind of funny seeing him score his touchdown that late in his career. Graduated high school in 2016. Like I was a sophomore in high school at that point, and now now I'm a junior in college. He's still playing. That's kind of just crazy to think. But kind of, I guess, what what type of guy is, I guess, Clay in the locker room around the rest of the team?
Yeah, I mean, he's not somebody that's super vocal, will talk a lot, but I mean, he'll do his job. He'll get his work done at the highest level. Um, he's, blue collar kind of guy. He works extremely hard and always has something going on, whether it's, work outside of football or work in football. The kid is always working to become better and super reliable receiver. I think that is a trait that sometimes can be extremely undervalued, but it'll show up on those really close games when there's a third and short, fourth down kind of play. And, he'll make the catch. But yeah, I mean, I was roommates with him and Tanner last year, and great chemistry between those guys. And they've obviously known each other for, going on 6 years now. But to finally see them link up for a touchdown, I was super happy for him.
Yeah, I would imagine he's going to be one of those guys I think that might be called upon to have a bigger role, depending on how long Crab's injury holds him out for. But it was definitely great to see him kind of get on the scoreboard finally. But another impressive day in the special teams unit for you guys. Obviously, like you mentioned, you kind of want to end the goals to end every drive with a kick through the goalpost, and you had 7 of those coming after touchdowns. And yeah, how, I guess, happy were you with your performance and kind of the special teams as a whole?
Yeah. To begin, we got Dragon on the kickoffs, and he's been absolutely dominating it. Like,
Yeah,
just not even fair, really, to other teams' kickoff return units. I mean, the other team will go out there and line up, but by the end of the game, their returner was just signaling to kill the play before the ball was even really up in the air. Dragon, he's just booting the ball halfway out of the end zone every single time. So that's a huge weapon that, fans may not see, but if you really break down the game, um, it's huge. It's a huge part of our identity and how we play the game. And then to the punt team, Brady Weeks, absolute stud, snapping the ball, and Crawford averaging 1 punt a game. That's fantastic. He couldn't ask for anything better. Yeah, it was his first punt in the first half so far this season, which, we can tell our offense to improve there. No punts in the first half. We'll save those for the end of the game. But no, they're doing fantastic. And then field goal unit, again, Brady and Crawford in there, just working a really smooth operation. And we're able to get a lot of our 2s into the field goal unit these past couple of games and get them some playing experience that will pay off dividends in the future.
Yeah, I would imagine that there's really not much, I guess, you and the special teams unit as a whole can ask, not much more you can ask for after a game like that. But yeah, it seems like everything's clicking. It's almost like we're talking about the same stuff every week. There's not much different week through 3, but 554.7 yards offensively per game, which is second best in college football. I think coming into the Colorado game, you guys ranked first in both total offense and defense. but now ranked fifth in total defense, 170.3 allowed per game. And this one, a lot of those kind of came in at the end of the game. But I guess during a game like Colorado, where you guys are having so much success early in the game, how different is kind of the locker room and halftime speech for a game like this compared to once you get into the Big Ten and you might be closer in the first half?
I mean, every time we go into the halftime, it's always going to be 0-0 anybody's game at that point.
Yeah.
Uh, you know, you've seen teams make those miracle halftime adjustments, and then in the second half, everything changes. So, that's only halfway through the game. And if we're up 35-0 in the first half, then that means that the other team can definitely score 35 points in the second half. So, the game's never over. Definitely pat yourself on the back for a good first half, but then right after that, you're looking at the plays and what went wrong. How did they gain 10 yards here when it should have only been 2? Or how can we take better care of the football? And special teams wise, how can we cover better? Was there a miscommunication here or there? It's all the little things that a lot of times the fans aren't able to see, but with the great coaching that we have and we get here, there's always going to be 10 new things to work on for every one good thing that you did right. And we just have to keep our focus on the next one. It's easier now for me to understand as a kicker, having all these extra points is fantastic. But if I ever get sleepy and it gets boring to me, that's when a missed extra point happens, and can't let that happen at all. And I'm grateful that I only had to kick extra points. I always love a challenge of a field goal late in the fourth quarter, but if those don't arise and I'm only kicking PATs, that means our offense is doing well. So I can't complain there. But halftime is definitely that's what will make or break a team like ours this year. And so far, we've dominated halftime, and we've come out in the second half just as strong as we were in the first. And if we can continue that into the league play, I think we will definitely have a very good shot at not only getting our opponents down in the first half, but keeping our foot on the gas and hammering them into the ground in the second.
Yeah, I kind of agree with that. I feel kind of in all levels of football, the good teams are the teams that make adjustments at halftime. Even if you are winning by a lot or losing, because no matter who you're playing, even if it's New Mexico State or Ohio State, I feel like those teams are going to make adjustments at halftime, and you kind of have to counter that yourselves as a team. And that's kind of, I think, what separates the good teams from the great teams. And if the Gophers are able to keep doing that this year, I feel like that's going to make a huge difference once you get into these closer games in Big Ten play.
100%. And you can kind of look at it as a choice, because I think at halftime, a lot of the fans knew that we were going to go on to win, but nothing is promised. Like I said earlier, the other team can come back, score 35 points, and then we can be in a nice tight game going into the fourth quarter. So nothing is promised, and every single player on our team has to make that choice to continue straining until the game's over. And a lot of times that's not easy to do. On the sideline, the energy could drop. People become less focused, mistakes happen, and all of a sudden it's another close game. But I mean, even our twos have gone in there with the mindset of it's 0-0. We have to execute on this drive. And that's the focus that we're going to need out of everyone going into a Michigan State and all the other great Big Ten teams that we still have yet to play.
Yeah, kind of, I guess, now transitioning into that, it was kind of a crazy week outside of the Gophers and the rest of the Big Ten. uh, Michigan State especially, they dropped their first loss of the season to Washington in Washington 39-28. I and there are a lot of other interesting results. Penn State kind of dominated Auburn on the road. Iowa scored their most points of the year against Nevada. That was a weird game. Nebraska got destroyed against Oklahoma. Ohio State had a big win. Michigan had a big win. Northwestern lost to Southern Illinois at home, which was a crazy game. And then Purdue was in a crazy game with Syracuse, lost. Indiana was in a crazy game with Western Kentucky, won. Rutgers barely beat Temple, and then Wisconsin and Maryland also won. So I guess you guys as a team, kind of how often do you look at other scores around the conference? Kind of just I guess like hanging out and almost just as a team as a whole, how much do you guys I guess look at that?
I mean, I think we're kind of just like every other fan at that point. You know, we love football so much, and we're always watching other games and seeing how all the other teams are doing. But the difference between how we look at it and how a fan looks at it is, you know, that's 1 week. And just because they lost to this person doesn't mean that they're going to lose to the next person. You know, every week is its own entity. And like last year, you know, we had a very disappointing loss, but I don't think that was an accurate reflection of who that team was. And that's exactly how it is every single year. But from a fan's perspective, you know, you have those jokes where Marshall beat Notre Dame, so Marshall's better than Notre Dame. And then Bowling Green beat Marshall, so by the transitive property, Bowling Green is better than Notre Dame. Like, you know, it's always fun to look at that and joke around about that. But being serious as a football team, you have to know that anybody can beat you on their best day. And you have to know that you can beat anyone when you're playing at your best. And that's why I think it's been so impressive so far that we've had these 3 blowout wins, because as much as we should have these blowout wins, it still is difficult to do. It's not a walk in the park. I mean, Colorado is a Power 5 school with 85 guys on full scholarship that were recruited nationwide. Like,
Yeah.
it's not like you're playing against some chumps. Like, these are still fantastic players. But us being able to assert our dominance over them, I think, is just a testament to what kind of team we have this year and how we're going to be going out about our business. So we just need to continue that through league play, because Michigan State, coming off of a loss, is going to be even more motivated than they already are to right that wrong, and we're the next one on the schedule, so they're definitely going to be giving it their all this week.
Yeah, I think that's kind of the only way you have to look at it. And uh kind of at this point of the year, it is interesting. Online, there's a lot of, I guess, almost hype for Minnesota to win the Big Ten West, and that they're obviously the only undefeated team in that division of the conference. And there's a lot of, I guess, even arguments for the Gophers to be ranked. A lot of people saying why is it this? Why is it that? Um, I know you've mentioned before kind of how the culture Coach Fleck has built at the program kind of helps you guys block out that noise and not think about that at all. But stuff like that you guys kind of, I guess, haven't gotten that national respect after 3 weeks, kind of based on the opponents that you've played. Kind of how do you handle that and not that let that seep into your team at all?
It I can't say it doesn't seep into our team, because I know a lot of the freshmen that, you know, don't really fully understand the culture yet are asking those kind of questions. Why aren't we ranked? Why is this? Why are they, you know? But as a more veteran player, I enjoy that. You
Yeah.
know, I enjoy people not really knowing what we're up to or not seeing how we're playing. Like, good. They don't need to. Once we hit that national stage, we'll be the exact same team that we were in the shadows. And I mean, that's very exciting to us because we're always out to better those teams. If Michigan State is still in the top 25, I don't know if they are or not, but if they are, great. We get to bump them out of the top 25.
Yeah.
But I know the veteran players are not really the guys that look at that. That's more of the freshmen that really don't understand how that doesn't mean much at the beginning of the year. At the end of the year, yeah, we want to be ranked. We want to be top 10 team. But right now, it's all a baseline for setting up future games. So we just have to take one at a time, and we don't dictate who's on our schedule and when. We just have to go out there every week and play. And this year happened to be 3 teams that we kind of just blew out. And that's how it goes. There's other teams that start the season with, an Ohio State, Notre Dame type game. 2 teams fairly evenly matched up, both top 10, but that's not what we had this year. But we can't change that. And I'm fine with not being a top 25 team. I don't know if the fans are fine with it right now, but I think they just need to relax if they want that right now and know that it will be coming soon.
Yeah, I always talk kind of about the same thing with my roommate. It's almost sometimes better to be kind of working in the dark and nobody's watching you, and then you kind of, because at this point rankings kind of are meaningless because it really doesn't dictate anything other than kind of how the TV networks broadcast the games almost. But you want to be peaking at the right time of the season and kind of once you get into those November games, that's kind of when it matters, and that's when you want people to be talking about you. And I think based on what you said, that's kind of, I guess, the mindset that you would hope a team would have, is not focusing on that at all and almost using it as motivation at this point of the season to gain that respect nationally.
Yeah, and I wouldn't even say it's a lack of respect that the guys feel. It's just more our schedule's our schedule, and we handled it how we needed to handle it. That's what kind of everybody expected from us. If we won by 70 points every game, I still don't think we would be a top 25 team based on the matchups. And, that's fine. If we don't get in the top 25 in the first 3 weeks, I don't think anyone's going to be hurt by that if we're top 10 at the end of the season. So,
yeah, that's really the only time it matters. But now kind of, I guess, looking ahead to this week in Michigan State, first road game of the season. I guess kind of what does the travel schedule for a road game like this look for you guys, for someone that might not know, kind of how different is this game week going to be compared to the first 3 when you have a home game?
I think the only really thing that changes would be, the travel day on Friday. And pretty much the same practice wise. We always practice in the mornings, but when it comes to traveling, we'll probably just bump up our meetings and everything by 2-3 hours just to account for the bus ride and the flight and whatnot. But other than that, pretty positive it's the exact same schedule, and we just need to go to Michigan now and repeat exactly what we've been doing the past 3 weeks.
Yeah. For road games, I guess, do you guys typically travel at night or in the morning?
Typically we'll have a morning practice, and then in the afternoon we'll be on the road traveling.
Yeah. I would imagine, obviously it's a lot different from high school football when you're not hopping on a plane to go to East Lansing, but you have obviously never played at Michigan State before. Obviously one of the bigger in more intimidating atmospheres in college football. But 2:30 p.m. kickoff, not a night game. Um, you're the team's obviously used to playing in front of the home Gophers crowd. Kind of how does your mindset change as a kicker and really as a team, um, as you now head into your first road game of the season after 3 home games to start the year?
I definitely think, being in a different atmosphere will change a few things for players. It's a different kind of, it's the same pregame routine, but you can't rely on your locker being in the same spot and having as much space as we have in our locker rooms, and the tunnel down to the field and whatnot. But other than that, still 120 yards on the field, end zone to end zone. And luckily, the goalpost size doesn't change or anything for me. I think the hashes are still the same. We're just playing on grass now. So once it comes down to the game, football is football. And it's not like baseball where the stadium changes and all that. But it will be new in terms of, a different environment, different atmosphere. There's going to be a lot more green and white in the crowd than there will be maroon and gold. But I mean, that's why we always try to focus on ourselves and relying on our teammates instead of looking up in the stands for motivation, because these road games are really about the team. You can't travel all the fans in Minnesota out to East Lansing, even if we wanted to,
Yeah.
So this road game will be a good test to see how much our team really relies on each other. And I think up to this point, we've done a great job of that. But, road games are a little bit different. They just are. You can't get around that. But it'll be a good test for us.
Yeah, I would imagine. And yeah, that game is on, I think, Big Ten Network. Should be bumped up to ESPN. I'd say it's one of the bigger games this week in the Big Ten. But yeah, I think that about just wraps it up for this week's episode. I appreciate everyone listening. As always, row the boat, Sky on, go Gophers.
Go Gophers.